Starting your first Minecraft world can be a bit of a daunting task, but in this video I hope to help you guys figure out how to start a new world with the settings that you want to be using. This is the Minecraft splash screen, and to start your own world, what you want to do is click on the single player button and the create new world button down here. On the screen you have a few different buttons that you can pick between. You've got your world name where you can choose the name of the world, the game mode, the difficulty and allowing cheats, as well as in the world tab where you can choose the world type and a few extra bits that we don't have to worry about right now. This is the first episode of my Minecraft for Beginners series, so we're going to be calling our world Minecraft for Beginners, and the next box is the game mode box. As you can see, by default it's set to survival, and there are three different core game modes to Minecraft. There's survival, hardcore, and then creative. Survival is your typical survival experience. You load in and you have to mine and craft blocks to build and advance within the world. Within survival you then have your difficulty settings, so by default it's on normal, but let's start at the beginning with peaceful. No hostile mobs and only some natural mobs spawn. Hunger bar doesn't deplete and health replenishes over time. This is the easiest difficulty for Minecraft survival. Basically you don't have to worry about any mobs killing you, you don't have to worry about gaining food for hunger, and it's a very easy experience. If you're a beginner and you want to get to grips with the game, peaceful is a really good way to go, but because you don't have any hostile mobs spawning or anything, there are some limitations. A lot of the drops that you get from hostile mobs can be used to further your gameplay experience, plus you won't be able to get to the end or do any of the cool end game stuff. So while peaceful is a really good place to start, if you do plan on taking your game all the way to the end, then it might be worth looking at one of the other difficulties. The next difficulty is easy. As you can see, hostile mobs spawn but deal less damage. Hunger bar depletes and drains health down to 5 hearts. So in the easy game mode, hostile mobs do spawn but don't do as much damage as usual. And if you run out of food, you don't have to worry about dying because it only depletes it down to 5 hearts, but you can run out of food. The next difficulty up from easy is normal mode. Hostile mobs spawn and deal standard damage. Hunger bar depletes and drains health down to half a heart. So I imagine for the most part, people will be playing on normal mode. This again is your standard survival experience. You got hostile mobs spawning as normal, and when you run out of food, you will almost die. It'll drain you down to half a heart, but you don't need to worry about anything else. And then finally for survival, you've got hard mode. So hostile mobs spawn and deal more damage, hunger bar depletes and drains all health. So this is the hardest way to play the survival game mode. It's much more challenging than the normal difficulty, as if you run out of food, you can die from the starvation, and the mobs do more damage. But the benefit to the hard mode is if you want to get into villager stuff, curing zombie villagers and such, whenever a villager gets killed in hard mode by a zombie, it will always turn into a zombie villager. If you plan to do any villager stuff, which is the key to a successful Minecraft survival world, then hard mode is probably the best way to go. But if you're starting out, it's probably best to go with peaceful. As I plan to be doing this series for quite a while, we're going to stick with hard mode to show you guys all the way to the end. But if you are following along with this series, you can go to peaceful or easy. But if you are following along with this series and you're a beginner player, then peaceful may be a way to go. Or if you're feeling a little bit more confident, maybe go with easy. So we've also got two other game modes. We just looked at survival, but there's also hardcore and creative mode. People will mostly be familiar with survival and creative. Basically in creative mode, you don't have any heart or hunger or anything. You can just create, build and explore without limits. You can fly, have endless materials, and you can't be hurt by monsters. Cheats are on by default here. You can just have as much fun as you want building whatever you want, wherever you want in the Minecraft world. It's great for practicing building, maybe building some farms that you want, which you can then bring over into survival. But creative is a really great way to experience Minecraft without the limits of survival mode. Of course, there are benefits with survival. Building a really practical base with materials that you've had to gather yourself is something so rewarding that you can't get from creative, but survival and creative mode are both great for their own separate reasons. And the last game mode is hardcore. As hardcore reads, survival mode locked to hard difficulty, you can't respawn if you die. So it's basically survival with hard difficulty, but if you die, then you can't respawn. If you die, then you just go into spectator mode and you've lost your survival world. So it's really, really good for a challenge, but if you want to make sure that you can keep playing on your survival world, then normal survival is the best way to go. The next setting in the game screen is allowing cheats. Basically, within your game, this allows you to run commands. By default, this is off, and I'd recommend keeping it off for most players. But if you do want to tweak any game settings later on, you can turn this on, and that allows you to change your difficulty in game and other things like your game mode, as well as turning on and off keep inventory inventory, which is a super helpful game rule, which is so good for early game players, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. For my run through, I'm going to keep this off though. The next tab is the world tab, and as you can see, world type default, but if we click through this, you can see the few different world types. As you can see, the first one is super flat, and this generates endless flat grass fields. We can customize this using the different presets on here, which can be helpful if you want to do a world that's specifically flat for whatever reason. Then we have large biomes, so the typical Minecraft biomes just generate much larger. Then we have amplified, basically the terrain is much taller and much bumpier than usual. We then have single biomes, so if you're doing a single biome challenge in Minecraft, you can pick this world type and then you can choose the biome that you want to choose for this. But we're going to be sticking with the default type. This bar under here is the seed for world generation. By default, it's completely random, but if you find like a cool seed online, this is where you want to type it in. This will change the world type generation, and if you have a friend with a really cool world type, if you find out their seed by typing in /seed into your game, you can paste this in here and the world will generate exactly the same every single time. We then have generate structures, so we want to keep this on most of the time unless you specifically don't want structures on. This will generate things like villages, the stronghold, the nether fortress, all of the really good structures that you usually do want to keep in your game. And then bonus chest is a really helpful one for beginner players. Basically, this spawns you with a chest that has a bunch of starter things in there, stuff like food and tools, and maybe a few saplings will be in here, so it's really good for starter players who just need an extra hand. And finally is the more tab, where we have the game rules, experiments, and data packs. If you allow cheats in your game, then you can change these later on, but for starter players, this may be something that you want to do at the beginning of making your world. The one that I draw your attention to first is the keep inventory after death. If you're a beginner player, or if you're playing with like your kids or something, you don't really want them to die and lose all of their stuff, so it might be good to keep this on. Basically, if you fall in lava and die, you'll respawn, keeping everything that you had when you died. This is a really helpful game rule to turn on if you would like to, but by default it is off. Bear in mind that if you don't have keep inventory on, if you do die, your stuff will despawn within 5 minutes of it being dropped on the floor. Any items that are dropped on the floor will despawn after 5 minutes. There are loads of game rules in here which may be worth you tweaking around with and playing with in your own time, but there's lots of really cool stuff that you can do in here. But by default, we're going to keep it as usual. Next is some experimental features. So bundles is something that's unique to Java Edition at the moment. I don't believe they have it on Bedrock yet. A bundle will allow you to store multiple different items in a single slot, and then we have the villager trade rebalance, so it's just some trading balances for village, but we're not going to worry about any of this. And then data packs, you can enable the bundle and the trade rebalance on here, but we don't really need to worry about this right now. If you do want to add any data packs, you want to click the open pack folder, drop any data packs into there, and then they should show up in here. But there we go. I think we have our world completely configured how we want it, so we can go ahead and create our new world. And in the next episode, we're going to go over how to survive your first night in Minecraft. We've now loaded into our new world, and you can see that the sun is rising, so we're going to have to move quickly. So if you want to see how to survive your first night in Minecraft, make sure to like this video and subscribe with notifications turned on so you know when I'm going to be uploading my next video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, don't forget to drop a like. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!